Alright, so this is the trading recap for January 31st, 2023, and this is on Tuesday. So what I want to do is I want to go through how I drew my levels and zones, and then I want to walk you through all the trades that I took and my analysis of the price action today. So I took 4 trades. 3 of those trades were successful. One of those trades I ended up getting stopped out on, and I ended up going red. So my Robinhood account, I ended up finishing the day in the red, so minus 0.33% on the account, but I did take 2 trades on my webull account that ended up putting me 8% in the green, so I was on green on one account and red on the other. Not the best day after I think a pretty successful week last week. I think I maybe need to step back a little bit, probably be a little bit more risk off and take fewer trades. But let's get into it. So if we look at what we had before we went into the day, so what the pre-market prep was is I drew my pre-market high in purple, I drew my pre-market low in purple. I have my solid white lines, which are key levels from the daily and hourly chart on SPY. I have my fib levels, which are the yellow levels. And then I'll show you how I drew my zones. So the zones are drawn from the 15-minute chart. So this zone right here is the low of day from the 27th, which was last Friday. And then this middle zone right here is from the 26th high of day. And so let's see here. Yeah, so I wanted to, there's kind of like overlapping zones here, so I just expanded this zone to encompass both. So this zone essentially encompasses the 30th high of day and the 26th high of day. And then the final zone up here comes, I don't even know if we hit this zone, but this is a zone that's 406 plus. So I have a huge zone here because there's a lot of overhead resistance. So those are the zones. If we go back to the 5-minute chart, I do have a few other levels that I got from yesterday. So yesterday we had a pretty strong resistance here. We wicked off of here before reversing into a downtrend and just trading in a bearish channel the whole day. Here we have some resistance here as well as support on this flag, and then we wicked off of this twice here and found support on that here. I have another level right here where we found some resistance there and some strong support multiple times there, like 5 or 6 times. And then I have one last level right here, which is where we found support, rejected 1, 2, 3 times. And so those are my levels. I just want a bunch of levels where if I want to take a scalp play, I have different areas where I can scale out or take my profits if I need to. So I'm going to begin with the price action, and then I'll walk you through all my trades. So let's begin. Alright, so I'm going to play it out. So right away, on this first candle we opened at, we closed just below this fib level and ended up rejecting it, and so we crashed down to the 21 EMA, found some support there, as well as the VWAP in 200, and then ended up going back. On the next candle, we rejected this resistance here, fell back to this key level and the 200 EMA, and ended up closing above that in that key level. So here we tried to break past pre-market high. We rejected that key level. We dumped all the way down here below the 21, and then we ended up going all the way back up and closing here. So that was a very strong candle. And then on that next candle, we try again to break past the break past the pre-market high. We fail, and then we end up closing there. So we failed twice and then a third time to get up past pre-market high. So a lot of resistance at pre-market high. We actually ended up with a super bearish candle going all the way down to the 200 EMA there. On the next candle, looks like we find some support. Alright, this is a crazy wick. So we went all the way up to this level. So we went down and went all the way up to this level. And that was a huge bearish candle. And so this is really what I was looking for, right? So I noticed that pre-market high was creating a lot of resistance for us. So if we closed above pre-market high, I was looking to scalp calls to the next key level, which is up here at 402.69. So I noticed a few things. I noticed that we had a little uptick in volume there. I noticed the MACD was curled and ready to cross. And that was a super strong candle. And then we closed right up above our pre-market high, and so I entered calls here looking to scalp to the next level, and my stop on this one was a close below the 9 EMA. Found some support on the 5 right there, tested the 9, but it held, and then ultimately we shot up to that key level on the next candle. I took my profits and I was out. So that was my first trade, and that one was successful, and I'll continue playing the price action. This key level is forming a strong support. Very strong support on this level. And we also bounced right off of the 9 EMA there. Alright, so this is a pretty good rejection of the supply zone. I would never think about, staying in calls past here. Whenever we encounter a supply zone, that can provide some overhead resistance. So I was just eyeing a break of that, but ultimately I was just watching here. Looks like we are riding the 9 EMA pretty cleanly. We reject a second time and then a third time, and then at this point I'm actually eyeing further downside. So we have decreasing candle bodies. We also have a red MACD here, which I'll expand so you can see there. We wicked 3 times off of the supply zone, twice here on these really bearish candles. They're almost like inverted hammer candles with these tiny bodies. And so I was thinking if we close below the 9 EMA, I expect a downside move to the next strong level of support, which is this key level right here, or at the very least that level right there. So we ended up closing below the 9 and then dumping, and then found some support on the 21. So that was my second trade. Very quick scalp. And then super strong support. We found support on the 21 here. So here's where I was looking at, we're wicking through the 21 and this key level. They're very strong supports. If we can close below both of those, I expect a downside move to this next support right here. Otherwise, I'm just watching. And that support holds, the key level holds, and we bounce off the 21 and shoot into this overhead supply zone. So you'll notice that we wicked off of the supply zone twice. We failed to break through. At least here we close inside the supply zone. So now I'm waiting to see if we can break out of the supply zone, and ultimately the main move I'm looking for is from zone to zone. So I'm looking for this move right here, and then you'll notice that we start to flag, and so I notice this flag, so I'll draw this bull flag. Right, we're flagging inside the zone. The flag works. We get a second leg up, and I take the majority of my profit. I take half my profits here, and then I'm keeping half in case we make it to the next level, which I really thought we were going to. We actually end up consolidating for a long time against this resistance here. At this point, I actually thought this was just like the world's longest bull flag, so I was staying in these calls. Theta was eating my premium, and my stop here was a close below the 9. So unfortunately, we ended up closing below the 21 EMA. I didn't like this close because we had red volume, red MACD. We pushed through the 9, the 21, and this bottom of this demand zone. So this looked bearish to me. I got out of all my calls, and of course, we shoot up exactly to my price target, and they stopped me out, and then immediately a bullish reversal there. So that was the trade that I lost. I ended up going red on my account, 0.33% after that. And then I decided I'm stepping away. If I find a really good setup, I'll take it on my webull. So we just consolidate in this zone a bit. And this was my first trade on my webull. Okay, there. So we close here below the 9 to 21 EMA. We have this huge ramp up in volume, and even on that candle we have an increase in volume. We have a red MACD, and then we have this bearish inverse hammer candle and a huge bearish engulfing. So here's where I enter puts, and I'm looking for a downside move to the top of the supply zone, and then I enter those, and that hits my target, and then I scale out of all of those. So as soon as I scale out, which at this point my webull is up like 4.6%, we actually find very strong support on that zone, and we bounce on a very strong bullish engulfing candle through here. So at this point I get a trigger. So if you look at the right side here, I have alerts configured. So I got let's see, there's some history here, but this 3-minute call alert went off at like 3:41 or something. So I got that alert. I switched to the 3-minute chart, and then this was the alert that happened. So I actually ended up taking calls on this. So I took 0 DTE calls on my paper trade account, and then I took 1 DTE calls on my main webull account. And so what I was really looking for here is we had a MACD crossover. We had the stair-step increase in volume profile on this move. We had a very bullish candle formation. We had these 3 green candles in a row, crossover, and we had strong support on the supply zone. So I was looking for the top of the supply zone to take my profits. So when we hit the top of the supply zone, I took all my profits for 44% on my paper trade account, but I held on with my 1 DTE call on my main account, and my stop here was a close below the 9. And then we actually just ended up ripping into close, and then those I sold at 359 for 66%. So that's a trade recap, and hopefully that's helpful.